Hi, everybody. My name is Joseph Goodman of Goodman Games. Welcome to our Denizens preview show. I'll pass the baton to Mike to introduce himself.
Hey, everybody. I'm Mike Curtis here, for Director of Product Development for Dungeon Crawl Classics, sitting here getting ready to talk about monsters. So I hope you're up for a spooky, scary, bloodthirsty hour. So no, I will pass the speaking bone to my compadre over next to me, Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris Doyle. I'm the Director of Product Development for the 5e side of the house. No drama there or anything. So super excited to talk about all of those wonderful things Mike mentioned about monsters.
Wait, is it still 5e or did we move on to 6e yet? I can't keep track.
Know. There's no additions in D&D.
It's one D&D, right?
Yeah.
Well, luckily we wrote this book for 5e, so I guess we'll publish it for 5e. What do you think?
Sure.
I don't know. I think we should go back to we do 4e.
No, don't make me redo it again.
It hurts. All right, so everybody, we have a pretty packed agenda for the show. Obviously, we're going to tell you about Dungeons and Denizens, which, frankly, we've been telling you about for I think 4 years now. So, but this time for real, it's about to come to Kickstarter. But we're going to talk a little bit about updates on prior Kickstarters, just because we actually posted an update on DCC 100 just like an hour or two ago. But a couple updates on things that are moving through the pipeline. Then we'll talk Dungeons Denizens, and we're actually going to later on in the show actually preview the Kickstarter page for you, which is I think complete unless you guys catch another typo on this show, but I think we caught all the typos. And the goal is to keep you guys well informed about the status of the project and what the Kickstarter will be like. And we are planning to take it live. Today is Wednesday. It'll be next Tuesday. And we hope you will join us for that. So first, I'm going to actually, sorry, Chris, Mike, anything else you guys want to add before I go into Kickstarter?
Oh, man, it's been a long road. We're happy to be nearing the end of the journey.
Yes, exactly. All right, cool. So I have a stack here on my desk, and also I have this new webcam that like follows me around, which frankly is disconcerting and weird. So it does that. We're all getting used to it. So I wanted to give you an update on DCC 100. I actually just got it's called a printer's dummy. What this is before we actually get to the printer proofs where they apply ink, we get a physical sample, and it's like check out the physical specs to make sure that the paperweight is correct and so on. So I'll kind of hold this up. Anyway, you can check the Kickstarter update on DCC 100 to actually see this a little better. But basically, this is a version of what DCC 100 will look like with no actual printing. So you have the fasteners that are little things that hold all the circles together. You got the little bookmark. You got the actual circles. So these are the circles that will be the map, each of one of which has a hole, which will then have the fasteners. You have the limbic wheel, obviously not printed, but it rotates. Then you have all the various books and the sheaves of chaos, all that stuff. And actually, the really cool thing is you have the game board, so to speak. This would be the map that the little circles go on, and it has a little circle in the beginning, or in the middle, I mean, and then you put your wheels there and your camera moves, but you get the idea. Anyway, check out the DCC 100 Kickstarter. There's actually a couple things we need to change on this, so we'll probably do one round of edits on the physical specs. So we'll get one more round of dummies, and then we'll eventually get that right. Then we'll move on to the actual ink printing part. So that's coming soon. But DCC 100 is moving along. The printer has the files, and we're in the fun part, which is when we start to get samples and stuff. They also have, this is the Kickstarter pack. So this will be a shrink wrap pack that has the bonus blank map, the poster of 100 covers, and the Goodman Games that will be in this separate pack as well. All right, so that's DCC 100. If you backed Crypt of the Devilich, actually today we just fulfilled the very last goal. The physical book shipped like a month ago, something like that. The Fantasy Grounds conversion was the very last element. Both the DCC and 5e version became available today. So all of you guys who have the keys to unlock that, you can actually go in now and unlock it. So I guess we need to do an update on that too. So we'll do that in a day or two. But I believe, unless we forgot something, I believe Crypt of the Devilich is officially 100% fulfilled. And obviously fans, if we missed something, let us know. Then we have Dying Earth. Dying Earth is an amazing, well, two amazing box sets. It's actually on the water. Will be landing at the fulfillment facility in probably 7 to 10 days, depending on trucking and so on. So I have the advanced copies here. We've shown copies of this in the online, but here you have the main box set. This is the distribution edition, which means it has, I don't know if you can see the foil and the logo there, but it does not have the foil on the sides. Then we have the Kickstarter stretch goals box, which turned out amazing. Has foil on the logo and then has the shiny foil on the edges, which is awesome. And so basically, if you back the Kickstarter at I believe it was the $100 level, you will get this awesome second box set. It's like an incredible value. The actual, based on how much prices have gone up since we originally ran this Kickstarter, you're getting more than a $200 value if you pledged at the $100 level. So it's pretty amazing. Then you will also get, if you pledged for the Kickstarter, this guy, which is the, you can see this, the full collection for those who pledged for the basic $100 set. It has inside, anyway, I won't open it all the way, but you open it up and you got the main box, the modules underneath, and then that secondary box as well. So main point is here, lots of things are coming along in really good shape. The last one I didn't talk about is Dark Tower. That one we're still in the art phase, and every couple of weeks we post another like 10 or 20 amazing images. So we'll post another round of those sometime soon. Mike, Chris, anything I forgot from like a Kickstarter update perspective?
No, I think you're good.
Cool. Okay. So folks in the chat, if you have other questions about Kickstarters or I forgot to cover anything, let us know. But I think we're in pretty good shape there. So I figured now we could discuss Dungeon Denizens. So Chris and Mike, I understand you guys have written about 500 monsters. How's that going?
Oh, it is going, and yeah, there's a lot of monsters obviously in the book, and we've been working on this now for a couple of years, and we're at the exciting part now where we're really starting to see a lot of the artwork and a lot of the fruits of our labor through this long process. So very excited, super excited over this one.
Yeah, this has been quite an undertaking. You know, it's just I can barely remember when we started the process. It feels so long ago. You know, it feels like this has just been part of my life for for so long. But it's we're almost there. So yeah. So and here's the next big step. So well not quite, but within a week. So here we are.
Yeah. No, and we've Goodman Games has done this title, Dungeon Denizens, twice before, once in the 3rd edition era, once in the 4th edition era, and each time was, I don't remember how many, but nowhere near 500 monsters, right? We had this idea. This is the first time we've actually done something this, I think it'll be one of the bigger books. It might be the longest book. I guess White Rock still has more pages total, but
White Rock still has the narrow lead over or number 6, Temple of Elemental Evil. But this one, with the sheer amount of art assets and the fact that it's a full color book and it's in 2 rules versions, if you add the 2 rules versions up together, it's definitely the most pages. But I think it's going to be definitely the biggest, most ambitious project we have worked on, I would say.
Castle White Rock, Dungeon Denizens, the 2 biggest Goodman Games projects. What do both of those projects have in common? I wonder.
Yeah, what could it possibly be? And or number 6.
Yeah, I know.
The disturbing trend.
Well, 500 monsters is awesome. I mean, I saw some comments online to one of the things we posted, just that people were saying they're so glad to finally have that many options for creatures, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And we should clarify, it's not just for dungeons. The book, obviously there's lots of dungeon monsters, but the book covers all terrains, actually, you guys, it's all challenge ratings, all terrains.
Yeah.
Remind us all.
When we took the bold step to go 500, we kind of had to throw they're only Dungeon Denizens kind of out the window, but we really liked the title, so we kept that. But that was the original. We're like, well, they're just things that occur in dungeons underground, and then after a while, we're like, that's just going to be kind of hard to do. So we need to get some aquatic creatures in here.
They can swim in the underwater lakes too, right?
They could, and we do have that flavor in there, some specific ones. So yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, technically they could all be underwater monsters. I mean, it's just some would fare better than others.
Yes, that is true. That's a great point.
It's my new underwater fire elemental. Surprisingly, the fire went out.
Yeah,
that's a hint to all you would-be adventurers how to deal with this. Just flood the dungeon.
Yeah, we call him the steam elemental.
Yeah, formerly known as the fire elemental.
Go Sharks! All right, yes, that's a throwback to Castle, not Castle White Rock. Sorry,
no, that was
the Devilish.
Crypto Devilish, yeah. All right, cool. So we have some art here. I figured we could show some of the cover art to everybody before we actually get into the Kickstarter preview. Elena, do you want to show the first image we have, which is the San Julian cover? Awesome. So everybody, I think we've shown versions of this cover for quite some time, but this is the final cover treatment with the final cover font and so on. Matt did that awesome sort of weathered, aged look, which somehow is just perfect for this art. It works so well. And then we were actually discussing this pre-show, is that the name of this monster is fairly hard to pronounce, but since we made it up, we get to pick how to pronounce it. So Mike is now going to say it, and this is the official pronunciation for the 4-armed bucktooth lizard guy on the front cover.
Sure, that's a Zopalani regener. Well, so it's just a Zopalani, but then there's a subtype of it. So it's so there's lots of Zopalanis. So I'm just gonna keep saying
Zopalani.
Zopalani.
So you heard it here first, folks. Zopalani. That's how you say it.
But it's not spelled like it's pronounced. So there you go.
It's got a T, right? That sneaky silent T.
Yeah.
There's a silent PH in the middle of it. No, sorry, that's something else.
And a GHOU. Okay. Zopalani, but his friends call him Steve. Right, exactly. So
That's perfect.
So everybody, this will be the DCC edition. The stat blocks are a different size between DCC and 5e. So the snaggletooth. So the DCC edition comes in around 400 pages. We think it'll be like 420-ish or so once all the layout's done. So it'll actually cost a little less than the Kickstarter, just because like printing it will cost less. And then actually, Elena, if you can switch over to the next one, which has the 5e cover art. This is by David Griffith. He did an amazing job, and I think Matt gave an awesome treatment that gives it this sort of real, 5e look. And Chris, I know you recall some of these creatures, and remember there's some of their abilities and stuff. You want to talk to the critters on the cover?
We've got in the back there, we've got the anthracite dragon, and then we've got and I'm doing this by memory. I've seen this picture so many times. On the left-hand side, we have the bronze reaper, and then on the right-hand side, we have the cinder whore. So an undead, a flaming undead creature. So yeah, it came out great. And then we've got your nice.
You may want to spell that last one.
So yeah,
cinder or O-R-E, right?
Yeah, Hoare. Actually, there's no E at the end. Sorry. Yes. Well, I didn't think we were going to get into spellings and pronunciations on this show. But that's where we're at.
People might go home with the wrong impression where you tell them we have a cinder whore, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Would that be the DCC version? I'm just kidding. So
yeah.
So it's cool. I like how it turned out, and this will be roughly 512 pages. I think was where the math on word count told us, something like that. Probably a little bit around there when we finally land it. Hardcover, full color art, which Chris mentioned earlier. It's kind of amazing to have 500 critters in one book.
Yes, it is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. All right, cool. And then, so we're going to do a couple alternate covers. And I know people might have a favorite between San Julian's or David Griffiths. We're also going to offer dust jackets as part of this project, so people can actually select the art they want on the edition of the book they want. So we'll cover that later on in the Kickstarter preview. But Elena, if you could go to the next image, which is the green reptile hide. So this turned out great. So this is what we're calling the reptile hide version. So I was going back and forth through the printer and asking them if they had, an appropriately monstrous way to print this. And you can see here the texture on the material. That's actually real texture. Like if you feel it, it's bumpy. We've actually enlarged it about 50% or so you can see it better. But it's called Pythor, and it is a material you can print books with. What's really cool is I have samples over here of like several materials you can print books with that all have different grains of like weird animal skins. It's not made from real snakes. Don't worry. We did not go out and skin a bunch of snakes, but it's sort of compressed to have this texture on it. So when you feel it, you feel the bumpies. It's actually 3D. And so what we're going to do is take Doug's art there. That's by Doug Kovacs there. And it's called debossing. Sort of smush it into the page, make it foil. It'll be green foil. The green one was that's the 5e version. Am I remembering right?
I'm not
and
sure.
I believe the red was the.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think we got that far yet, did we?
Oh, I don't think we actually made a firm decision on that.
Are we going to dice off on that during one of the other live streams? Or are we going to dice that off?
Maybe.
Should we?
Yes. Totally.
So that's a good idea, actually. But anyway, so if you go to the next one, you'll see it's the same art, but red. So the idea is we're going to do one is going to be a red version for one rule set. One is going to be a green version for one rule set. Same basic image. And with that Pythor texture is actually super cool. I wish I could somehow convey it, let you guys actually feel a sample. But it's super cool as far as book covers go. And it really does have that textured feel and feels like real, snake skin or something.
So if you have a snake at home, go and pet your snake, and that's what it'll feel like.
Yep, that's
Everybody
what it'll
else,
be like.
go out and buy a snake after the
And
show, and then you get a sneak preview.
and don't be surprised if
Mhm.
monster stats for the Pythor shows up somewhere along the line in this
I mean,
project.
Pythor's too. You got to.
Yep.
That's the name of the material. How that's perfect for a monster.
I swear He-Man fought Pythor at some point. That's it,
Did, didn't he? Yeah, it sounds like it. Wasn't he one of like the Cobra guys in GI Joe? Wasn't he like he fought in the swamps, had a big orange gun or something? Like, yeah. So folks, we're very excited to have two amazing images. One by Stan Julian, one by David Griffith, and Doug contributed the art that is going to be imprinted on these. And then we have one more piece of art by Errol Otis, just to like make it even more awesome. So if you can go to the next image, Elena. So actually, Chris, you got to tell your story. What we sent Errol and what we got back.
Oh, please don't make me name all these guys because again,
Okay.
I'm actually not even looking at the stream right now. So, when we decided way back, we were like, well, we're not sure what we're gonna do for covers, so let's just throw a bunch of things out there. We'll use them for something. So I sent Errol probably 15 or 20 monster descriptions, and we did that on purpose. We were like, just pick the ones you want and put the ones you want on there. And don't use the ones you don't want. And then he sends it back, and I swear I could only figure out like 3 of them, 3 maybe 4, and some of those were a little bit of a stretch too. I was like, well, I think it could be this guy. So I just went through, and the ones that I couldn't figure out, I just restatted out, and they're actually all in the book. And we can at some point we can let everybody know which ones those are, so they can actually figure out exactly marry the stats to the creatures. But we were going for something like the old monster manual with the critters in the sky, critters on land, and then critters in the cave underneath below, kind of on a 3-level thing. And obviously Errol knocked it out of the park. So very excited about that. So Joe, why don't you tell them what that's the cover of?
Oh yeah, good point. So first of all, it is an amazing cover. Every one of those creatures is something that I could never have, never have dreamed up. Sorry, random side note. We should tell the people from the Dying Earth Kickstarter. So if you back Dying Earth, you're going to get a little sneak preview here. But we recently had the chance to visit with John Vance, who was obviously Jack Vance's son. Some of us went to his house, and we're going to talk about that later in the Kickstarter at some point. But Errol was there, and it was just a lot of fun hanging out with him and hearing just the way he thinks. It's so different from the rest of us. And he comes up with these amazing illustrations. But anyway, 2-page dungeon delve. So the idea here is that we wanted to give people some really simple, easy ways to utilize the monsters in here. And instead of doing kind of static encounters, we took inspiration from, it's been going for 10 years now, whatever, but the 1-page dungeon contest that occasionally comes up online. What we're doing here is this book will work for both DCC and for 5e. The idea will be that all the creatures in there either come from Dungeon Denizens or from like a standard reference source, like the Monster Manual or the DCC core book, stuff like that. You don't even necessarily need stats because you got 20 versions of that monster lying around. And each one is actually, you know what, Elena, go to the next, I forgot we had a preview. Go to the next page. This is or next image. This is a preview of what the layouts will look like. Each one of these dungeon delves will have a half-page map, 1/4-page illustration. And because there are no stat blocks, they're simply references to, Monster X. It's in Dungeon Denizens page 25 or whatever. It is for them. We're calling it kind of multi-system / systems neutral. Like it's multi-system between 5e and DCC, where you occasionally have to give a check for doing something. But it's really, for the most part, minimal stat blocks because we refer you to the appropriate books for the stat blocks. So it's a way to easily show these creatures in their layers or in states of activity or, how they interact and so on. Actually, and Mike and Chris, I know you actually, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, you had some.
In their natural habitat.
Or they're unnatural.
Because I know, yeah, some of these are trickling in. Do you want to tell, or any, exciting 2-page dungeon delves that come to mind you might want to share, or should we save that for a later reveal?
I actually teased it in one of my updates that we have one coming along, but yeah, I was actually able to I actually put one of them together, and I think I was able to use 5 different monsters, I think, from Dungeon Denizens. I don't think I used a single standard monster, so they all kind of worked all together very, very well. But yeah, we have a couple of them already trickling in. We're really excited about this book, this kind of complementary book to Dungeon Denizens. I think it's going to be really cool. So yeah.
There will not be 500 2-page delves, though. I would say we're not
No.
using all 500 monsters in that. That's a slightly smaller percentage.
Yeah, this one's closer to. I think we're targeting 48 pages. If we clear a bunch of stretch goals, maybe it gets bigger or something. But yeah, not 500. Yeah, that would be a little big. So it should be an easy way to figure out ways to utilize some of these creatures in your games. You know, maybe you take one of these mini dungeons and drop it into an existing dungeon you have, or just take a couple of the rooms out or something. But it should just make it a little easier to process the 500 monsters in the main book, I think. So as you can see, there's a lot of cool aspects to this project. So the other cool one, actually, I'm gonna try to. So I got this stupid new webcam, and I'm wearing this shirt that I want to show you guys. If I stand up, try to show you this cool shirt, you'll get a brief view. Oh, you can kind of see it, but in the webcam, like, so anyway, the stupid webcam, I actually show you the shirt. And I got like a spectral version of it made. So we're gonna have a really cool shirt that Lester, the layout wizard, designed for us. So what I learned is if I switch to my other old webcam, which I will do now, you can actually see me from the side. Ta-da! This is the really cool shirt. So Elena, if you can also flash that on the screen. Lester, the layout wizard, who does our t-shirts and also, you know, Tales from the Magician's Skull and stuff, designed this super cool t-shirt to go with the project. So we'll have these on as an add-on. Yes, with Steve's picture. I think this guy's officially Steve now.
That's what we're calling him now. It's official.
Steve the Zopolani. So these will be add-ons, and you'll be able to add those onto the project. And I'm sure many of you recognize the reference, but it just turned out awesome. So we're happy to all be denizens here. And I think also, speaking of 5e, I mean, a lot of people like 5e. This is a bit of a side note, but coming back to this shirt, in some way, I think it could even be like I'm just wondering if we should add like denizens of 5e at the bottom or something. Because like, I think in some way, 5e has been, not even in some ways, from what I've heard of WotC sales numbers, it is the most successful edition of D&D ever. And I think a lot of people want to keep it. I think this will be a way to, you know, support 5e in principle across as a rule system, and maybe even wear a shirt that says, you know, the Steve 5e shirt or something. All right, so those are kind of the core pledge elements. Anything else that I forgot to talk about, Mike or Chris, before we get into the actual Kickstarter page?
You forgot to tell people to back within the first 48 hours.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it like says that on the screen. But yeah, so everybody, if you go to the address on here or just search for Dungeon Denizens on Kickstarter, you can click the little follow button. If you can, give that a shot. So the first 48 hours, well, first of all, I'm going to watch the chat here. Does anybody know what a tip-in is? Somebody say yes or no. If you
Yes.
Oh, yes.
I'm not calling on you.
Oh.
So, all right. So, Judge Snyderman knows what a tip-in. Great. Judge Snyderman, do you want to explain to the class what a tip-in is?
Oh, now
you can like write it in the chat. Well, he said he knows.
I bet Steve knows.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, he works in a wow.
There's
like
an
inside man.
20-second delay.
Yeah.
The poor Judge Snyderman's got to type it out. So
Tip-in. It's basketball reference, clearly.
He's right. Can you get me a discount on my printing, by the way? Like friends and family or something? So yes, it's a page inserted into a finished book. Exactly. So thank you. So no, but dang. Okay, so what you're gonna do for Dungeon Denizens, so for everybody who pledges in the first 48 hours, we're actually gonna have a bonus monster, which will be your 501st monster. And it will be tipped in, which means there'll be a special extra page that will be sort of glued into the binding of everybody who pledges in the first 48 hours. So actually get a slightly different book, so to speak. Mike, you look doubtful. You don't believe me?
Are we sure about that? Isn't the tipped in for everybody who does the Kickstarter? And then
sorry, yes, Mike. Thank God we have Mike here. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So basically what it is to make things simpler. If you back the Kickstarter during the course of the Kickstarter thing, you will get a version of whatever rule book, whatever book that you pay for with a bonus monster tipped in. Okay, so that will be added to the book. If you back within the first 48 hours, you will get another monster. However, that's not going to be tipped in, though. It'll be kind of inserted in. So because we don't want to go in the Crypto Devil Lich thing where you end up with like 8 different rule books or anything like that. So
92 covers. Yeah.
The tipped-in version will be a Kickstarter exclusive. If you back within the 48 hours, you'll get an extra inserted monster. So which will be included with the pack.
And then to Mike's point, yep. And Judge Snyderman, would you like to explain to everybody what a signature is? We're waiting. Sorry to put you on the spot. He seems to know a lot of this stuff. I've always got Tippin by hand his way. So a signature, Criminy. Yeah, sorry, man. So a signature is basically an extra bundle of pages in the back of a book. So what we are hopeful that we're clear on the stretch goals. And those stretch goals will be printed in an extra signature at the back of the book for those of you who pledge for this project. And then that will be where the additional 502nd monster will go. So depending on how the pledges go and the stretch goals go, you'll get a bonus monster simply for backing it. And then first 48 hours gets an extra bonus monster. And then there'll be other stretch goal monsters. There'll be some configuration of tip-in / extra pages at the back, maybe even an insert, depending on how it all goes through.
Yes, and just to answer Ghostly Squid's question, so all of the monsters in these books, when we say there's a monster, there's a 5e version and then there's a DCC version for all of these, and they're completed. They're created by the different staffs that are working on things. So so you will be getting exactly the edition that you want. So you don't have to worry about anything like when we do other things for this Kickstarter. Whenever we say another monster, same thing like stretch goals, when there's another monster, it's another monster for both versions.
Yeah, exactly. Point is, if you pledge early, you get more monsters. That's the main thing, is try to pledge early.
Yes. Didn't want anybody complaining as if this monster isn't tipped in, this monster is something else, and you said it. So it's just just
Yeah,
want
exactly.
to make sure this is why we have the preview launch show.
That's right. Our ducks are now very much in a row. See them all in a line? Yes.
And then we won't leave this one on the web, so nobody can come back and haunt us later. So we'll way into the ether,
And yes, our publisher does love all the extra bindery work. Not. So, okay. All right. So next up, I think we can do a 5e and a DCC choice. Yeah, so there'll be a 5e book and a DCC book, and then every monster, as Chris said, that appears, if we have the orc will have a 5e version and a DCC version. I think that's what you're asking.
I think when we show off the actual Kickstarter page, I think a lot of people will know what's going on.
Very good point.
Very,
yeah.
Very, very informative. We hope.
Yeah. So actually, why don't we go to a be right back? We'll be right back in like 2 minutes. We're going to share the screen and show you that. So
then we'll answer all the questions.
All the questions. All right, everybody. If we figured this out correctly, you should now be staring at a preview of the Kickstarter page. You guys are cracking me up with Roger and Steve. So to answer a question from the chat, the Kickstarter will actually launch next Tuesday. This way you're watching right now is not the launch show. This is the preview show. And we'll hopefully find any typos and fix any errors. If you guys catch anything, let us know. So this is the preview of the actual Kickstarter page. You can watch this really cool video that's on YouTube that Matt put together showcasing some of the creatures. And as you can see, I guess this guy's now named Roger. He tells you that you get the bonus monster for pledges in the first 48 hours. I'm going to scroll down. We're really just going to talk through each segment of the page, and you guys ask questions as we go if you need any help. So
before we go in, thank you, Multiple Menace, for subscribing. Well, welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So are your adventurers brave enough to battle the denizens of the dungeons? This massive tome presents 500 new monstrous opponents for your fantasy dungeon crawls. And yes, it really is 500. And there's, by the way, there's amazing art. There's color art for every single one of the creatures, and in some cases, color art for the variant spellcasters, the variant champions, whatever it might be. So as we scroll through the page, you're just going to see a ton of art because there is a ton of art in this project. Oh, sorry, while we're here. And all the art is drawn by hand, by people, not by robots. So just to put that out there, one of the things that we pride ourselves on here at Goodman Games is, it's funny, people will come to me at cons and say like, oh, I love the art, it looks so different. I'm like, yeah, that's because somebody actually painted it with a paintbrush. So much of the art that you see right now in many spaces, including much of fantasy role-playing, is digitally created. It's great art. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is a look that I personally am not as in love with. I really love physically painted art. It looks different. The colors are different. The style is different. Everything looks different. So our art is consistently hand-painted, which is why it does have that hard to pin down different look, which you see here. So every single image in here is hand-painted. Obviously, you have to scan it and touch it up a little bit to get it into the computer, but it's all hand-painted in keeping with the Goodman Games, approach to things. So Yeah, we'll keep keeping work away from the robots. Yeah, don't mean to put any robots out of business, but
Technically,
they
we
can work
haven't
for
given
somebody else.
we haven't given all the artists void comp tests. So when some of them might be robots, but we don't. Well, as far as we know, everybody's working on this. So.
Good point. So full color hardcover book of 500 monsters, also available as PDF and BTT. Comes in two versions, 5e and DCC, which you see here. And the encounter book, as we mentioned earlier, Dungeon Delves is actually either multi-system or systems neutral, depending on how you want to describe it, but we'll work with either system. And this is an incredible value, folks. There's 500 monsters. It is an affordable book. You'll see down here on the side here, the DCC edition is $49 by itself for print and PDF, and the 5e edition, which has more pages because the stat blocks are longer, is $59 by itself. But it is an amazing deal for the price, and it'll actually cost more if you buy it later in stores for a number of reasons. But we're offering it to you as a great value right here. So
that's like 10 cents a monster.
What a deal! Yeah, I know. Yeah. Maybe we should have like an installment plan where we bill people 10 cents a day. Maybe not, actually.
I still owe Columbia House for
I know, man. BMG, like, what were they all? I know. 1 penny gets you in, and then you're like, oh, hundreds of dollars. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the special monster not included in the retail edition. Kickstarter backers can also choose a reptile skin limited edition cover. So we showed you that earlier, but there's more to down below. But the Pythor hide, which is super cool. The other parts, so there's a lot of add-ons. Cardstock pawns, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but we have 500 amazing images. We decided to use them in other ways. The 2-page Dungeon Delves, virtual tabletop tokens. We have a special set of dice. My friend Tom from Impact had these really cool, like stone gray dice lying around that was just like dungeon walls. So we included those here. Custom GM screens, which we'll cover in a bit, the t-shirt, and some stretch goals. Another big thing that I think will make some people happy is we're offering international friendly shipping options. So this has been in the works for quite some time. We actually did this a long time ago with Grim Tooth Traps and the first DCC at Nightmare, and then COVID messed everything up. But we've reestablished a few things and signed a few contracts. So for backers in the UK and the EU, this book will be shipped from an origin point in the UK. So what that means is your shipping costs won't be quite like we still have to get the product to the UK. I can't teleport it. So there will still be shipping costs that are more than shipping from the US, but it will be far cheaper than shipping it directly from the US because it'll originate, go in bulk to the UK, then originate in individual parcels from the UK. We don't control the VAT. So whatever your country's negotiated VAT is with the UK, that'll be the VAT you pay, but it will save you a little bit on shipping. For Australia and New Zealand, we're close to finalizing the arrangements with a partner in Australia to ship from that origin point, and in Canada as well to ship Canadian orders from a Canada origin point. So this should make international shipping a lot easier. And to answer the other question that I know somebody's about to put in the chat, we are not able to offer this on DCC Dying Earth, mostly because the container's almost here. But for future projects, including DCC 100 and Dark Tower, it is quite possible we'll be able to basically retroactively offer this as well, depending on how everything gets sorted out and if it's all finalized in time. But it should make things a lot easier for folks outside the US to pledge. Will there be stats for a big bald Matt? Now I feel like there have to be. Along with Steve and Roger.
We experimented shipping this stuff out by balloon, but for some reason, I just didn't get through.
They just never arrived. It's weird. Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah.
Sorry, Canada.
So, yeah, I know. And by the way, Skywalker 713, I know who you really are. So don't make me tell Matt, but that is pretty funny. Okay, so and then here, save $60 with the all-in pledge level. Basically, it makes things a lot easier on our end to manufacture and to ship and assemble and ship out the door if things are in large bundles, essentially. So we're willing to offer special deals if you guys buy in certain configurations, which is below. So bonus monster for pledges in the first 48 hours, as we talked about earlier. Everybody who pledges for the Kickstarter edition gets the bonus monster. And then if you pledge in the first 48 hours, you'll get a second bonus monster. So please do pledge early. Then here are the pledge items. We kind of showed you big versions of this art earlier, so I'll sort of quickly skim through here. But so we have hardcover editions for 5e on the left here, a DCC on the right. And then we have the two limited edition reptile hide covers, which have that Pythor texture, which is super cool, and Doug's art there. We talked a little bit about the 2-page Dungeon Delves. So this, at its current 48-page incarnation, which may grow with stretch goals. But it'd be a $15 MSRP or $12 if you buy it through here as an add-on. We have the judges screens. Actually, maybe Mike, do you want to talk about what's going to be on the DCC judges screen? And then
Sure. Because we're going to use some of the plan was to use some of the material that appears kind of in the back of Dungeon Denizens, but not all of it is applicable to DCC. I'm sure Chris will talk in a moment what's going to be on the Dungeon Denizens 5e version, but it doesn't really apply to DCC. So what we're going to do is we're just going to come up with yet more weird tables to add to the Dungeon Denizen. So if you know in the kind of the bestiary section of the DCC rulebook, there's all like how to make monsters stranger and stuff like that. We're going to basically go down that line, and then we might also have some kind of random encounter tables for okay, well, you're in the forest, roll on this table, and in true DCC fashion, we're not going to worry about challenge ratings or anything like that. So you might run into Steve. Or you might run into Steve and his buddy Skinny, who's the giant dragon. So it's going to be very much the swingy DCC experience that you expect.
Cool. And Chris, tell us about the 5e version.
So yeah, not nearly as cool as the DCC version, but we'll have lists and tables with the monsters by CR. The monsters by terrain type, whatever we can fit on there in the way of the tables that I'm sure most folks are very familiar with finding at the back of these 5e monster books. We're gonna cram on as much as we can, and I don't know, maybe there'll be a stretch goal for a magnifying glass if we need to, if the font gets really really small. That'd be kind of cool actually. But so that's what we're planning for the 5e version, and then the awesome art. So.
Yeah, these are mock-ups, by the way. It might change a little bit by the time it's done, but the mock-ups really look awesome, and Matt's really good at making these look cool.
Yeah. If there's one thing we're sure about, is we have a lot of art for this book, full color, so we'll be able to figure something out.
Yes. So then we have the cardstock pods. So this came out of discussions of my God, there's a lot of art. We should find some cool ways to use it, and it makes a lot of sense to have cardstock pods. So Chris, I know you spent quite a while developing this idea. Tell them about all the stuff you've done.
Yeah, so cardstock pawns are really cool. They're, I mean, it is expensive, but if you think about how many you're getting, if you were to try and buy 500 miniatures, it would cost you, probably $1,000 or something there. So this is definitely a more cost-effective way to do it. And again, utilizes that full color artwork. And I actually had to put together a template. I did it in Word. Apparently, there's a really cool grid format in Word that you can overlay a grid. And then I made my pawn sizes, and I just copy pasted and laid them out on the different pages, and then tried to figure out how many we want to do. And at first we were like, well, we can't do all 500 because that's just silly. I mean, that would be crazy, the number of pawns that would be. But then, of course, knowing us, we ended up, let's just do all of them. It's just easier, to be honest with you. So we are going to include all of them on there, and it's probably going to end up to be about probably going to be 38 to 40 cardstock pages, 8x11 pages, which is going to turn out to be about 3 to 4 inches thick of cardboard. So if you see that price there and you're like, whoa, that's a lot of money, you're getting a lot of cardboard for that. So
high quality printed cardboard.
Yes, and again, the awesome art,
right. And this isn't like cardstock cardboard. This is like the stuff you buy, attack it. This is like game piece.
It's like board game quality, basically. It's basically if you were doing a board game and you had 500 pieces that you had to punch out for the standees, that's what you would be looking at. So so we're really excited. We've not done something like this before. But again, it's just a great way to use that art that we already have. It's like, how can we get this art in more people's hands and to make it more usable at the table too? We're all kind of sick of VTT gaming these days, so it's like we want something that you can physically touch and use at a game table, because that's the way we prefer to roll. So, pun intended.
And as I recall, you were able to fit some gargantuan sized pawns as well as some groups of tiny creatures and tiny sized pawns as well.
Yep. So we have all of that, because once we decided to add everything, I was like, whoa, that's going to mean gargantuan pawns, which are like 4 inches by 5 inches, I think, or 4 by 6. I forget what they actually ended up being. So that obviously ate up a lot of our real estate really quickly because if there's one thing that our designers really like to do is make gargantuan creatures. We have quite a few of those in there. So yeah, so on our massive spreadsheet to kind of manage this whole project, we have columns for the size of the critter, and then we have a calculation page to figure out how many pages we need to do, at least estimate wise, so we can kind of get a handle of what the logistics would be for something like this. So really fun to play around with something like this.
Yeah, and it won't, just be clear, the ponds won't, I'm sorry, the stands won't be included. You can get little plastic stands at lots of places online.
Yeah.
But it will be cardstock and it will be die cut. So it'll be easy to just pop it right out and put it in the stand.
Yep.
And you'll have many, many options for some awesome creatures on your tabletop. So again, buying it through here, it'll be $90, which sounds like a lot of money, but to Chris's point, it's like a giant stack, which will be a more affordable price than picking it up later. Yeah, and I agree with Tim in the chat. It's great not to have to tell people like this thing that looks like a snake is actually this other thing when you're playing your game.
How do you pronounce that?
Then we have yes, Cicerog. I actually, when I first did it, I feel like I made it up in the first, when I was making up that adventure, I like had to come up with something that was a snake. So I was like, and I said it like Cicerog or something like that. Then later on, I was like, how do I spell that? That's like what I came up with. So all right, so then we have the dice. So Impact Miniatures makes Goodman Games' dice, and they have this new set they've been working on, which is the perfect color of a stone gray dungeon. So we're offering the dungeon dice. These will come in a tube, just like all the DCC dice do. Or if you picked up our Dark Tower 7 dice set, I think we should preview that somewhere. But they'll be in the tube with the typical wraparound label that we have. So you can pick those up as well and add those on. We'll have the shirts, which you can order to the size you want. Which just look awesome. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody wear their shirts around. Then we have VTT tokens, and this kind of addresses one of the questions that came up earlier. So yes, you can get the cardstock pawns as cardstock pawns, or you can buy that same imagery in this VTT token set if you want to have versions to manipulate in virtual tabletop. And then finally is the dust jackets. So as you know, we've done some projects with a lot of cool art, and we've actually had people already asking here, well, we did some website posts or something. They're like, well, I want the, the Aero Lotus cover, but, for 5e, or I want the San Julian art, but for, this other edition. So for $5, we're going to allow you to add on a dust jacket with the art of your choice. It will be what we call version art. So it won't have, logos or titles or anything on it. It'll be just the San Julian art, or just the David Griffith art, or just the Aero Lotus card. Now you want the letters? Come on, man. You can't have it every way. So
I think that was referring to the snake.
oh, right. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. 500 covers, not 500 covers. No, so when you go through and pledge, there'll be an add-on option. Since the books are different sizes, so the 5e book has more pages because the stat blocks are different, make sure you are careful in the one you select, because you'll have to select, I want the Aero Lotus for the 5e, or Aero Lotus cover for the 5e spine width, or DCC spine width. So hopefully it's clear when you select it, but make sure you pick the one you want, and it will hopefully let you customize your book. Did I miss anything, Chris or Mike, for this section?
Nope, I think you got it.
Cool. All right. So pledge levels, and we're telling you guys in advance so you can come in hopefully in the first 48 hours and click the one you want. But obviously PDF only is $30 for either edition. Once you get into the cost of actually printing it, it changes quite a bit. So then we have the $59 5e edition printed, or $49 DCC edition printed, and both these printed ones include the PDF as well at no additional cost. Then we have the reptile skin cover, which will come with the physical reptile skin cover at $74 or $64 depending on the rule set, and then also has the PDF as well. Then we have the hardcover plus all the printed add-ons. So, and also includes the complimentary PDF. So this is all the add-ons that are not, not printed, like dice or t-shirts. So you get the core book with the rules choice you want. You get, oh yeah, green is DCC. That's what we'd put in there for the starters. I couldn't remember the starter here, but yes, glad you like green. It's funny how much preferences there are around the color. But so this pledge level has, in addition to the core rulebook, you'll get the dungeon delves and print and PDF, the screen for the rule set of your choice, and then the pawns. So giant stack of printed stuff for $189 or $179, and that's $35 less than it would be if you bought them sort of a la carte or later on. Then we have the limited edition hardcover plus all the printed add-ons. So you have the reptile hide version of DCC or 5e plus the PDF version, Dungeon Delves plus the PDF version, GM Screen and Pawns for $199 or $189. Then we have the all-in for 5e or DCC. So at this level, you get the reptile hide version plus the PDF. You get Dungeon Delves plus the PDF. You get the GM Screen for that respective rule set. The Pawns. You have the dice set. Either 7 die for 5e or 14 die for DCC, and then the t-shirt. The price is $269 for 5e or slightly more for DCC, mostly because the dice set's more expensive. And at this level, you're saving more than $60 in the pledge. And then we always have some fans who want both editions. I guess the game with both editions or whatever it might be, or they want, they're collectors who want every version of the book. So we have the one level, which is all in for all of it. So you basically get 4 physical books, the 2 reptile skin covers, the 2 color cover editions by San Julian and David Griffith, and then also the PDFs. And you get Dungeon Delves in the PDF, and both versions of the GM Screened, and the Pawns, and both versions of the dice, and Dungeon Denizens, and the VTT tokens all together. So that's the pledge levels. If anybody in the chat has any questions, let us know. And if you catch any typos, please let us know, because we're trying to make this typo-free before we go live. So then there's a little more information here on the reptile hide cover. I'll repeat a little bit in case anybody joined late, but in short, I went to the printer and asked them if there's something cool they could offer that would be a cool way to print up a monster book. And they sent me first they sent me photos, then they sent me physical samples of several textured materials that we could use to print book covers in. And this one's called Pythor. You can see on the zoom in there, it actually has this, it feels like snakeskin, this real physical, tactile quality to it. So Doug did this awesome illustration that'll be debossed and printed in foil on the Pythor cover.
Scales may be slightly smaller in the actual physical project. We kind of blew them up here so you get a good look at what you're getting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make them a little easier to see. So we have a couple minutes left. I thought now I'd hand it over to Mike and Chris if you guys want to talk through all the crazy, cool collections and types of creatures we have.
And we have a ton.
So if you're familiar with all the different types in 5e, we strove very hard to make sure we had a reasonable collection of all the different types. So you're going to get your aberrations, your constructs, your beasts, your monstrosities, your undead, your fae, etc. We even, near the end of the project, we even kind of gave our contributors targeted advice of like, oh, hey, it's like we're kind of a little bit short on fae. Can you design a few extra fae for us and stuff like that? And that worked out really well. So we got pretty comfortable with our numbers, because we were really striving for variety here. We had 500 to work with, but we wanted to make sure we got all different things. We also worked very hard to get at least one monster of every challenge rating. Now, obviously, most of them are challenge rating 10 and lower, because that's typically what you run into, even when you're a higher level character. And I get that in DCC there are no challenge ratings, but you can kind of apply it the same. It's a CR 20 creatures going to probably be for 8th level, 9th level DCC characters. So we worked very hard to make sure we kind of had that, all those kind of things kind of knocked off and everything. So here's just some of the awesome artwork of the first guy are aberrations. I think that's the Abelar ogre. So Abelar is actually a template that's in there. We actually do have a couple of templates in there. If you pan down, that's the Bronze Reaper. Again, different version of art for the Bronze Reaper over there. And then off to the side is actually what's called a Clockwork Stealther. That are created by the gnomes. We have a whole bunch of gnomish clockwork critters in there. If you go down, we have literally a horde of humanoids are in this book, including the Clacklin, which are on the right there, or kind of a carapace-clad underdark lobster-like creatures. The next, if we go down to our monstrosities, that is the Conflagration Worm, which is probably my favorite piece of artwork so far, and probably needs to grace a sticker or maybe its own shirt or something, in my opinion. We have fiends. Oh boy, do we have fiends. And we've got that's the Inferno cat on the right hand side there, and I believe that's Malatok, the carrion crow goddess on the right hand side, I believe. A barrage of beasts. We've got a gargantuan crab. We added a few Godzilla type monsters in there. It's like, because I mean, it's a trope of the old classic B movies to have like a gargantuan praying mantis and stuff like that, which is not really in the core rules of 5e. So we do have a selection of those, which is kind of neat.
If you're a kaiju fan, you will not be disappointed.
Oh yeah, no, because we actually created some special rules for them that they all kind of share together, some traits and everything that I think kind of really worked really well. We have plant-like creatures. We have the bamboo golem on the left-hand side there. We have and then so we had some fun. So make sure folks understand when we say this. So when we say there's 500 monsters in here, there's 500 unique stat boxes in there. So you might get 3 or 4 of this particular version of a humanoid, but you'll get the standard version, you'll get the war chieftain, and then you'll get the spellcaster. So that counts as 3 monsters. So we've done that a fair amount. But again, when we created these, we really worked hard to try and make sure that we weren't kind of overlapping things. So we tried to make things, different power levels and kind of fill those different niche that you have when you're running into when you're running monsters for adventurers. So do you want to add anything, Mike?
Well, so somebody DigiDwarf said, "Is anything that will work thematically with MCC?" Yes, everything.
Yes, yeah, a lot of it.
It's really easy just to file off any serial numbers. For example, a bamboo golem is just another weird plantian who wants to kill you. I mean, so yeah, I mean, any of this could be all sorts of weird monstrosities, or either like a giant mutant crab. That's that's MCC. So right, exactly, Father Goose. Anything DCC can work easily in MCC. So yes.
Yep.
And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Bob, who made his scales not to scale joke a couple minutes ago, which I like that one too. That was hilarious. It's like you should be a writer or something.
Yeah.
Then we have fully developed foes. You talked about this, Chris, but just the fact that there's so many different additional bits and pieces to flesh out every creature. Variant leaders. Chris, you want to talk about your tables and that show you're going to do, the reference tables?
Yeah, so we're going to do an entire show where if folks like to talk analytics and through the magic of charts and graphs, do we have a Twitch show for you? We're going to do an entire show. Rick and myself, we are the co-hosts of Talking TSR. We're going to do an entire show where we're just going to show graphs and charts of all the cool things about this monster of a book. So we have this massive spreadsheet full of all sorts of crazy data, and we figured this is like too cool not to show people, like kind of pull the curtain back a little bit on everything that we have. Like I said, I had to go through this massive table and add all the sizes to all the creatures, and then I had to do all these calculations to kind of add up to create all the number of pages that we needed for the pawns. And it just came to think, I was like, somebody out there is probably interested in this. So we decided to put a whole show together. So join us on that. That show is going to be March 6th, I believe it is, at 8 p.m. So that'll be coming down.
I'm laughing at
lower.
Thorin's comment. Right back at you, Thorin. Yes.
No, Ghost Squid, there will not be a DCC version of that show.
I know.
No.
There could be. It just could be a really short show.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick it up.
So
Roll a die and see what happens.
But we encourage all the DCC fans to come to that show in the chat and make fun of us.
And then come back and appreciate your chosen rule set. That's it.
Yes. So,
no, we don't need any intercompany warfare going on here.
No. Chris's spreadsheets. Well, I remember Mark Bruner had this amazing spreadsheet for Dying Earth of like all the words. Chris has created this amazing spreadsheet for all the monsters in this book, and it really is like when you see the amount of tracking and management that has to go into 500 stat blocks. And then assembling the tables where you like you said, find them by CR, by environment, by whatever. I actually think it's fascinating too. I think a lot of people will be interested in it.
Y'all are weird.
It'll be fun. And by the way, I think I should have mentioned earlier, several of the items in this Kickstarter are actually exclusive to the Kickstarter. So like the limited edition cover, we're not planning to do, that won't be sold through distribution. I feel like there was something else too that I'm forgetting, but a couple of the items we don't have plans to sell through distribution. We'll put that in the FAQ. So if you do want them, now's the time. And Elena, there's a show on right after us, right? I feel like we have to wrap this up soon. Okay, so we'll try to
I think
moving.
like half of them are in the audience right now waiting for us to get off.
Get off. Okay. So a couple other things here. Backer design monsters. So turns out it takes a while to write 500 monsters. So we realized that we're also growing pretty rapidly as a company. I don't know if you guys heard, but something happened with OGL, and January was incredible, the number of new fans. So if you are, by the way, a new DCC fan, welcome. We're really glad to have you. It's amazing how many people, checked out our core rule books and everything in the last month. But we basically need to pull in some other people to help with some future projects. So we're opening it up to let some of the backers of this project actually contribute monsters. So the way it'll work is we've essentially reserved up to 20 monster slots in the book for backers to design something. The more backers we get, the more slots we're going to open up, and it's just simple math. With more people, we'll probably have more good submissions. So essentially, you can see in the chart here, at 500 backers, we'll have 2 slots available. As we get more backers, we'll have up to 20 slots available. So you have to pledge at least the PDF level, basically at least $30. And then after the project's over, a couple weeks after that, we'll post the submission guidelines, and we'll invite you guys, if you pledge for this, to submit a monster. And we are hoping to find some reliable folks who can help us contribute a couple items here, but perhaps in the future grow to continue to contribute for other projects in the future. Mike, Chris, anything else you want to add?
No, just that this is going to be super exciting. There will be, trust me, folks, there will be specific rules, and there will be a time frame when everything needs to be submitted. It's going to be after the Kickstarter. Our Kickstarter ends, and then we're all going to be at GaryCon. So you're going to have to wait for us to get back from GaryCon, and then give us a couple days to recover from that. And then we'll get those, we'll open up the actual window we'll make sure everybody has the rules on how to submit and everything. And you can submit for both DCC or 5e, one or the other, and then we will then take whichever ones we end up picking. We'll just send those over to the other team to convert them to the appropriate rule system. So again, everybody will get the monsters in regardless of the system that they back in. So if we get 200 DCC submissions and 100 5e submissions, we're going to pick the best. We're not going to take 10 and 10. We're going to just take the best ones that come through the door. So does not matter which rules edition that you submit in. Whichever one you're most comfortable with, I would say, would be the best way to go.
We have
actually,
we're at this point now a trained team of conversion people. So
Yep.
And one thing that's worth noting about this, since you're getting a preview on this, you've got 30 or 40 days or whatever it is before we'll be opening this up. To the extent that you can play test your monster ideas, that's always best. It's worth noting that many of these creatures come from published Goodman Games products in the past, and they've been extensively play tested. So this sounds really silly, but not every company actually play tests their creations. If you look at our adventures, for example, there's always credits for play testers, and it's something we do. So the more you can play test, the better, and that is going to be a hallmark of this book. We feel like it's quality in part because these creatures have all been play tested. Let's see. I think last couple sections here. Sorry, Joey, we're working on it. We'll be done soon. Stretch goals. So what could make a monster book better? More monsters. So we have here, there's a lot of encounters playtest. The first couple stretch goals are revealed. We have named the other ones, but as we go through, we'll basically be adding on monsters. So what you think is 500 monsters to start, maybe 550 or even more by the time we're done. As we mentioned earlier, backers of this Kickstarter will get a slightly different book than the one that goes to distribution, because it will have these various bonus monsters, including the stretch goal monsters, assembled into their own signature on the back. So you will actually get a bigger, better book than what goes through distribution. So we'd like to give you guys an incentive to pledge here at the Kickstarter stage. So lots of really cool monster ideas that'll be revealed as we clear stretch goals. And then frankly, if we get up this high, 775 seems insanely high. We have other ideas as well, like more encounters for dungeon delves or whatever it might be. We have the Twitch shows. So obviously this one is not it, but we will be doing a launch show next Tuesday, which we probably should have put on here. But by the time the launch is, the show will be over, so I guess we don't need it. Then we'll have a Meet the Team next Thursday, various Monster Mash shows where folks will get together with some of the designers and talk about it. Chris told you about the Monsters and Charts show, which sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, and then the Countdown show at the end. In addition to this, there are some other various folks on YouTube and other channels who are also going to be posting some previews and so on, so we will link up theirs as they post theirs as well. Alex from 20 Sides to Every Story and a couple other folks as well. Shipping we talked about, hopefully EU friendly, etc. I think that's it. Did we cover everything, everybody?
I think
we did. Yeah, I
Yep.
think you already talked about the shipping, the awesome shipping.
Now it's just a matter of waiting until this goes live, and then everybody will hop in and pledge in the first 48 hours so they can get their bonus monster. And then
Yes.
we just crack 1 million in the first 40 hours, then we just coast.
Is that it?
Right? That's it.
No. So let's see. We need to stat up Pythor, Steve, Roger. Anything else we need to stat up that we've established on this show?
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you're going to be at GaryCon, do not come up to Chris and I with your monster ideas, please.
Yeah.
we don't want monsters hand scrawled on the back of like hotel stationery. We will be accepting monsters from backers after GaryCon. So
Good point. Oh yes, and the big bald mat. We got to stat that one up too. Thank you, Chris. Okay. All right, cool. Well, thank you, everybody. If you have any other questions, or if you spot a typo or whatever, shoot us an email at info@goodman-games.com. Please do follow the project on Kickstarter if you haven't already. And we are planning to launch next Tuesday, and I want to say it was 9 a.m. Pacific, if I remember correctly.
I think that's right.
Yeah, so hopefully see you then. And stay tuned on the channel. So we have Joey Royale's Pizza Party, which is always a really fun show, and that's coming up next.